I am sure that you've heard the old adage that reading is fundamental, but have you taken time to contemplate how reliant we are on reading? Just imagine trying to get health care for a loved one if you couldn't read. There are tons of forms. Then you have to read up on the medical condition. If you get a prescription, you have to read what it is, when to take it, and how much. This is kind of important stuff. And given that this is a big deal, you're probably not surprised that reading is linked to health outcomes. Reading is truly a life skill that most of us take for granted. I mean, if you think about it, why shouldn't most of us? We learned how to read in school, and it's just something we picked up. It's something we could do. But this is not the reality for the people who struggle with reading due to dyslexia. Reading ability falls along a continuum. Some individuals are great superstar readers, while others are just average. But then there's people who are below average to well below average. Individuals with dyslexia fall towards the lower end of this continuum. Dyslexia is a brain-based type of learning disability that specifically impairs a person's ability to read. Dyslexia is characterized by difficulties with accurate and fluent word recognition and by poor spelling and decoding abilities. Decoding is our ability to sound out words to read them. Dyslexia is extremely prevalent and is the most common learning disability. The ability for all children to read is influenced by multiple factors that interact with one another to bring about reading success. One of these factors is motivation. With that said, dyslexia is not the result of a child being lazy or not trying hard enough. Children with dyslexia can work just as hard and even harder than the other kids in their class and still struggle to read. All of this effort will achieve little if these children are not provided with the appropriate instruction to address their needs. Environmental factors also impact reading achievement, and solid, core classroom reading instruction is critical for the success of all students. But dyslexia is not the result of poor core reading instruction. Don't get me wrong, our schools can be improved, but individuals with dyslexia can be found in even the best of schools. During the early grades, the majority of children respond to high-quality, direct reading instruction, but some kids do not respond to this high-quality instruction, and parents and teachers alike are left wondering why these kids are not learning to read. For many of these kids, the reason could be dyslexia. But there is hope for these individuals. Children and adults with dyslexia can learn to read when provided with appropriate instruction that addresses their educational needs. Individuals with dyslexia require direct, intensive, systematic, cumulative reading instruction. But why don't they respond to less intensive quality instruction like many other students? The answer is in part due to neurobiological differences observed in individuals with dyslexia. One of the risk factors is a family history of dyslexia, and it is well documented that dyslexia runs in families and has a genetic component. Our genes provide the blueprints for our brain, and dyslexia is a brain-based learning difference. My research and the research of many others provides a better understanding of this brain basis. Reading is supported by areas of the brain that allow us to produce and understand language. These language areas work with the visual centers and learning circuits of the brain to support reading development. This distributed network of brain regions allows a person to understand written language. Individuals with dyslexia show differences in areas of this distributed network. Differences can be seen in functional brain scans taken while individuals perform reading tasks. Differences are also seen on structural brain scans, and the wiring that connects the areas of the brain involved in reading differ between individuals with dyslexia and their typically developing peers. Another part of the answer to the question, what causes dyslexia, can be found in how we process language at a cognitive level in support of reading. But before we consider the cognitive components of dyslexia, we first need to consider the different components of reading. The ultimate goal of reading is to comprehend text. If comprehension does not occur, then a person has not read. But we can't comprehend a text if we do not have the skills needed to identify the words on the page. And we use our ability to understand spoken language to comprehend written language. Our ability to understand spoken language is supported by many skills, more than I can capture in a single figure. But to highlight a few, children need a wide vocabulary, background knowledge of the topic being discussed. They need to be aware of the meaning units within words, and they need to know how words are put together to form meaningful expressions. Children also need to be able to read print fluently. When reading aloud, they should be able to read quickly with expression. Fluent reading requires an ability to efficiently and accurately identify individual words. The identification of written words is supported by an ability to sound out individual words. This is the skill of decoding, and to identify words by sight word reading. Sounding out words to identify them is supported by knowing our letters, their formation, and the sounds that go with them in the language. Sounding out words is also supported by the ability to hear the internal structure of words and isolate the individual sound units that make up words. For example, there are 3 sound units in the word huff. H, f. Proficient readers are highly accurate in word reading and the skills that support reading words. Proficient readers are also highly efficient and automatic in word reading. And just as phonological awareness supports the development of accurate word reading that is needed to allow students to develop proficient word reading skills, rapid automatized naming supports the speed by which a person can read words. Pulling a word from memory or effortlessly decoding a word is supported by our ability to efficiently go from print to sound, to go from seeing something to being able to access its name. So now let's turn back to the cognitive basis of dyslexia for many individuals. Remember, dyslexia is characterized by underachievement in accurate and/or fluent word reading. Individuals with dyslexia also often struggle with sounding out and reading words. But why is it that a child can have such a selective deficit in areas of written language? The reading deficits of individuals with dyslexia often stem from a problem with processing the sound structure of language. These aspects of language are phonological awareness and rapid automatized naming. When these components are deficient, we commonly observe corresponding deficits in reading accuracy and fluency. Deficits in word reading ability give rise to an issue with comprehending text and learning new vocabulary. We often forget that most of the vocabulary that we learn comes from reading. It isn't possible to directly teach all the vocabulary necessary to support language development and listening and reading comprehension. So students who struggle with word-level reading skills often lag behind their peers in learning new vocabulary. Notice that I've not mentioned that dyslexia is a generalized learning disability. Well, because it's not. I've not said that these kids are dumb or lazy, because that's not true. They're not throwaway kids or adults. These individuals have a very selective deficit that limits their ability to learn how to read. And they need more intensive, direct, systematic reading instruction than others. But when they receive this instruction, they will learn how to read. Here at MTSU and the Tennessee Center for Dyslexia, we are striving to help raise awareness about the success that these children can achieve. We want to help parents, educators, and policymakers become aware of what these needs are, so that collectively we can work together to make sure that we strive to meet these needs. So look forward to more future videos such as this to help raise awareness about other aspects of dyslexia.